going on, everybody? My name is C4. Welcome back to the channel. And today I'm going to be rebuilding every team in the NFC South at the same time. It is going to be a 5-year rebuild. And while every single season we're going to feature one team primarily, we're going to have a season with the Falcons, a season with the Panthers, a season with the Saints, a season with the Bucs. I am still controlling all 4 of these teams and giving them under the hood the same time and attention that you get in a 5-year rebuild, so that when all is said and done, we are going to have 4 super teams. We're going to have 4 teams that are all likely going to be pushing a 90 overall, if not eclipsing that. We're going to have 4 teams that are all going to be Super Bowl contenders. We're going to have 4 teams that are going to be vying for the exact same top-tier free agents. 4 teams that are going to be trying to draft the creme de la creme of every single draft. We have honestly 3 teams that are probably going to have to try to find a franchise quarterback in the Atlanta Falcons, New Orleans Saints, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Those don't grow on trees, especially within a 5-year period. And when all is said and done, we're going to be looking to get multiple Super Bowl champions out of the NFC South. We did this video last week with the NFC East. We did make 4 super teams. We did have 4 Super Bowl favorites, but when all is said and done, I found like our division kind of cannibalized itself a little bit. We'd have 3, if not all 4 teams make the playoffs, and it just gives us less chances, less opportunities to go on a Super Bowl run. We only won 1 Super Bowl. That was with my Philadelphia Eagles. So the challenge I am putting on myself here today is to win multiple Super Bowls, ideally with different teams, but I am definitely looking at the Atlanta Falcons. They are pretty good at simming in Madden 24 as the, I don't want to say Super Bowl favorite, but that will be my prediction of the team that goes on to win the Super Bowl. Doesn't always work out that way. When I did the NFC East, even though I'm an Eagles fan, I predicted that the Cowboys would go on and win a Super Bowl. They did not. So maybe it's not always about the playbook. So let me know in the comment section below, 1, who do you think is going to be the first team in the NFC South to win a Super Bowl? And 2, if you want to see this series back, which division do we do next? I'll tell you right now, the AFC South was close. Just got a little bit more love for the NFC South on Twitter when I asked which one we're doing. So let me know in the comment section below. Without further ado, let's meet all 4 teams before we hop on the sticks here with the Tampa Bay Bucs for year 1 of this 5-year rebuild. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers up first. This is the team that we're going to be controlling year 1. And when you look at the Tampa Bay Bucs, they have a lot of veterans, which is not what you're looking for when your quarterback is Baker Mayfield. Like, the Bucs have a roster, a sneaky roster. That they had a really good quarterback right now. I could see them potentially going on a run. Ryan Jensen, you got Mike Evans. You have Chris Godwin's getting up there, but not overly worried. But Levante David, 90 X Factor. Shaq Barrett has already started to regress. Vita Vea's likely at his ceiling. This is a roster that, you know, if we had, you know, you put in Tom Brady. If we still had Tom Brady, who would have been like, what, an 88 superstar or something like that, I could see the Bucs being a contender, being a sleeper team. But unfortunately, Baker Mayfield is not him. This is going to be a team that when all is said and done, as I leave the Bucs year 1, I want to leave them with a franchise quarterback. The first time we did this with the NFC East, our first year was with the New York Giants. We replaced Daniel Jones, and we found them an X-Factor quarterback in that first draft. I think the exact same history repeats itself needs to happen here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because it's only going to be regression on most of these players. You know, you do have Chris Godwin, but like, okay, we need to improve the offensive line. You likely are going to need a left guard, a center, and a right tackle when all is said and done. You might need a tight end if Cade Otton doesn't pop a dev trade. You might need a running back if Rachaad White doesn't perform in this scheme. We'll be optimistic. Maybe Mike Evans does go the full 5 years. Doesn't regress too bad. On the defensive side, you need to get another defensive end on this front 3. You're going to have to replace Levante David and Shaq Barrett at some point. Maybe you can get by with the secondary. Winfield, Carlton Davis is 26. I think Darrell Dean's also 26. So those guys are going to be 31 at their ceiling. Probably regressing, but still pretty good players. So I guess the defense, not a lot of worries. Not a lot of replacements. It's got 3 things, but the offense needs a lot of work, and you can't go much further past the quarterback spot. Year 2, we're going to be featuring the New Orleans Saints, another team that I think needs a quarterback. I just cannot see Derek Carr leading this team to a Super Bowl title. He's also pretty expensive. I think generally speaking, the Saints have a terrible salary cap situation, so this is not going to be a team that we're going to be able to fix a lot of our problems by throwing cash at free agents. We're going to have to draft very, very well with the New Orleans Saints. Alvin Kamara is awesome, but he's 28 years old. Father Time is undefeated, especially when it comes to running backs in the league. So I think when I look at the offense, you look at 3 key pieces here. Alvin Kamara, Derek Carr, and Michael Thomas. Are they going to be here come year 5 of this rebuild? No. Luckily, we do have Chris Olave, bona fide wide receiver 1, only going to get better, best football ahead of him. I think the offensive line, if we can find a replacement or upgrade at left guard, is going to be solid. I can see all 4 of this 5 being here come year 5, developing and playing their best football at that time. But offensively, we're going to have to definitely find a brand new quarterback, and we're going to be competing against ourselves in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers camp to find that quarterback. And very well with the Atlanta Falcons, if Desmond Ridder doesn't pop off, it doesn't start getting dev traits, that's going to be the toughest thing in this rebuild, is 3 teams potentially vying for the 1 or 2 good quarterbacks that might get generated over the first couple years of this rebuild. Shout out Caleb Saunders, too. We'll pull him at fullback. I watch Saint games sometimes. He's a beast in that backfield. Defensively, similar kind of deal, where like the most known players are probably not going to be here come year 5. Cam Jordan, 88 superstar pass rusher. We have Demario Davis, the X Factor, Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu. Those guys might get a year or 2. We might even explore potentially trading them if things don't go particularly well here with the Saints, or if one of these guys could be something that could be a key piece in us trading up to potentially land a new franchise quarterback in the draft. But there are still plenty of good players. We got Carl Granderson, who I don't know how he's still on a normal dev, but this guy here is one of the most underrated pass rushers in the NFL. You got Isaiah Foskey with the hidden dev, Brian Breezy with the hidden dev, Marshawn Lattimore is going to be here for the full 5 years. Paulson Adebo has the dev trait. You got the Cookie Monster, Alante Taylor, who I think can pop with a dev trait. Same with Pete Warner. So I'm not overly concerned about this defense, even though we're going to have to move pieces. Like, as soon as Cam Jordan retires, I think Isaiah Foskey can slot into that starting pass rush role. We do need to get younger at safety. We do need to find a new quarterback. We do need to get younger in the running back room, but the plan is kind of in place. You can see the moves that need to be made to get this Saints team over the hump, and that's at least, we got a plan. It's not like I have no idea what I'm doing here. We got a plan here with New Orleans. Year 3, we're going to feature the Atlanta Falcons here, and this is a very interesting roster. This is a roster that has a lot of good. Drake London, especially if we can get him off that start at. Bijan Robinson's an absolute stud. Kyle Pitts, absolute stud. You have Chris Lindstrom, one of the highest rated linemen in the game. You got a hidden dev Canadian on the offensive line. Dahlman's on the right side of 3rd. I think we got that whole interior is going to be here for the full rebuild. Definitely need to probably look at replacing the tackles. Definitely need to look at adding some depth here and some studs around Drake London in the wide receiver room. But Desmond Ridder, that is the interesting name. And I think, unlike the Bucs and Saints, where I'm going to be aggressive in this very first offseason trying to get a new quarterback, I think we give a little bit of a grace period here for Desmond Ridder. We know how good the Atlanta Falcons are in the sim. So, with that being said, maybe Desmond Ridder plays well enough to start developing, start making big-time gains in his base overall, maybe even go up a dev trade. But also, I'm giving him a very short leash because I do not have time in 5 years to try and hope and pray that this guy develops into a guy that can lead this team to a Super Bowl. So I think come year 2, maybe going into year 3, that'll be the proper time to evaluate where Desmond Ridder is at in this Madden rebuild and then decide what we need to do at the quarterback spot. The defense, well, I think the secondary is promising. AJ Terrell and Jesse Bates are absolute studs. They're going to be here for the full value years. I think Richie Grant's a good role player. I think if we can enroll a dev trait on the redemption arc of Jeff Okudah, former top 5 pick, or Mike Hughes, one of those guys getting a dev trait, we're going to be looking good in the secondary. But the front 7, that's another story. Front 3 needs to get younger. I don't know if Grady Jarrett's going to go the full 5 years, but I know Calais Campbell usually retires. Onyemata is kind of a role player. Not much youth as well behind it. You got Bud Dupree, Troy Anderson-Ellis, and Ebiketie. Ebiketie's the only guy in this entire front 7 where I have, like, that guy's going to have to develop, and I think we can count on him come year 4 and year 5 of this rebuild. Unless we get, like, a dev trait on a Troy Anderson, we are probably going to be looking for 2 new linebackers. We're probably going to be looking for another pass rusher and 3 defensive linemen in this scheme. So I think outside of maybe adding another wide receiver and obviously the wild card of whatever happens with Desmond Ridder as our quarterback, I think improving this front 7 for the Atlanta Falcons is going to be our top priority in the first off seasons and drafts. But I think there's a lot to like here, especially knowing how well the Falcons sim. I think still they're going to be the favorites of all the teams in this division to go on and win a Super Bowl. Then in year 4, our final year featuring a solo team, we're going to feature the Carolina Panthers. And I think they're the only team in the South that feels like they have a quarterback under center that can lead them to a Super Bowl here in Bryce Young. I know IRL hasn't been the best for Bryce Young, but it's also not a good offense at all. Outside of Ike Ekwonu, who do we really feel super confident is going to be here year 4 and 5 as a big-time contributor? Maybe Austin Corbett. I hope Jonathan Mingo continues to develop. Would be cool if Miles Sanders does something, but like even right now, is Miles Sanders even the best running back in this backfield? Chuba Hubbard's been crushing it as a starter. So Adam Thielen's been insane. He's been putting up big-time numbers, especially you got him in fantasy football. But for a 5-year rebuild, he's probably going to retire after a year or 2. So I look at this and say we very well might need a left guard. Shout out Brad Christensen. center, probably a right tackle, definitely a tight end, definitely a wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 3. I think we can get enough out of Mingo to develop him into a nice wide receiver 2, but it's going to have to be nice. And maybe we need to even find a running back. So a lot of work needs to go in to surround Bryce Young with the talent he needs to take this team to the Super Bowl. And it doesn't get a lot better when you look at the defense. On the front three, we got Derek Brown, who's going to be a key player, but other than that, need a nose tackle, need another defensive end. The linebacking core, maybe we can get by with Frankie Louvu. How is he not a normal dev? How is he a normal dev? This guy needs to be at least a star. He's a poor man's TJ Watt, and I say that with all due respect, and that's a positive. You got Brian Burns, who's a stud, but don't get a lot of good production in 3-4 sims. I would not bank on him keeping on to that superstar dev. He's probably going to lose that dev trait sooner than later. Deion Jones and Shaq Thompson need to get long-term replacements for those two guys at middle linebacker. Von Bell and Xavier Woods are all kind of at that age as well. Come year 3 of this rebuild, we're probably going to be looking at 2 new safeties. We got the Horn Dog, who's an absolute baller. Dante Jackson solid for the time being. And they moved Jeremy Chin to corner. He's playing slot corner. I was thinking about moving him back to safety so we could have him be like that hybrid linebacker, but I do think maybe him featuring at slot corner will get him similar production, get him on the field a lot. And I know IRL, he's a top potential trade target. I mean, it does seem like a lot of people think the Carolina Panthers are going to be sellers. I don't really want to take that step back here with this squad. I think we need to develop and keep and hold on to the key pieces as much as we can. I really think across the board, all 4 teams, I do not really want to be sellers right now. I think we could just draft well. I want to gamble that I can draft well enough to keep all these guys together. But I think out of all 4 teams that we previewed here in the South, even though this team has the quarterback here in Carolina, I think this might be the team that needs the most TLC. And we need to hit on the most draft picks and make them competitive is here in Carolina. So year 1, we're going to be chilling, hanging out, featuring the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But before we get into year 1 with the Bucs, I need to give a quick shout out to today's video sponsor. Hey basketball fans, we've been waiting all summer and the time is finally here for teams to match up and hit the court. I'm partnered up with DraftKings Sportsbook and they have an exciting offer. All new customers who bet $5 will get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings app and sign up using my promo code C4 only at DraftKings. That's right, new customers can bet just $5 on any basketball game and get $200 in bonus bets into your account instantly. Stay in on the action and use your $200 in bonus bets on DraftKings same-game parlays for a shot at even bigger payouts. Combine multiple bets together from the same game, including player points, rebounds, assists, whatever way you want to combine it, you can do it on DraftKings. If you're already signed up for DraftKings, no problem. All customers can get a no-sweat same-game parlay. If your bet doesn't hit, max reward limits apply. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. New customers use promo code C4, bet just $5 on any wager, and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code C4 only at DraftKings Sportsbook. So sitting here at their bye here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we're 1-3, and I feel like that's enough right on the wall to be slight sellers. You know, I feel like that's the argument that can be made with a lot of these teams that aren't finding their way right now at the trade deadline. I feel like we do have a really key player that I think it's like, you know, you look at this where Ryan Jensen, like, you know, we'll keep his center. We can ride our linemen into the ground. Levante David's an X factor. I mean, it depends on the kind of value. Probably don't get ridiculous value, but I think the biggest, easiest name to probably shift off from is Shaq Barrett right now, 30-year-old, 81 superstar pass rusher. And we get a big-time offer here from the Seattle Seahawks that I think we need to make. We have question marks at tight end. The fact that we can get Noah Fant, 77 dev trait, 25 years old. So within the confines of a 5-year rebuild, he's still going to be here. He's going to be a key piece for us. We get a 6th and a 7th. I think that is the best move there to help out our future new franchise quarterback when we land him in the offseason. For our player contract, $61 million of salary cap, so we can do plenty of damage with that. And it should have been obviously known that trading for Noah Fant, the reason why he was even offered is because we would have to re-sign him. We got Mike Evans, who we're going to give a 4-year deal, Hall of Famer. Need to keep him here. With Antoine Winfield, another important player. We'll give him a 5-year, $70 million. I think he is only beginning to scratch the surface. We have Devin White, who we also have to pay because Levante David may retire sooner than later. I think Ryan Neal's replaceable. We definitely didn't just trade for Noah Fant to let him walk. And he's also not super expensive when all is said and done. He wants a little bit more money, but I don't think it's going to take a lot to get that one across the line. We have the great Levante David, and we really want him to be here till he retires. So I think with that remaining money, we'll be able to bump up the offer there for Noah Fant. We'll get a little bit of breathing room in terms of salary cap, I think, ahead of the offseason, but that's just going to be breathing room. I don't think it's going to be enough for us to go out and really sign anyone big. We'll pick up the 5th-year option of Joe Shoyinka, but we're just not going to have enough money to keep Ryan Neal in the building and or Greg Gaines, or more importantly, to re-sign Baker Mayfield, who at 1-3, the plan was always to move along, into the draft with the idea the draft is we're going to get our quarterback. I think that's going to be the case here. But as you all know, even though we are featuring the Bucs year one, I am controlling every single team, and it just needs to be stated right now as I go through re-signing all the players. Saints, before I even sign anybody, negative 42 mil, and there's no one that I can restructure their contract to free up more than like $1 million. So it's going to be a bloodbath this first offseason, maybe the first couple off seasons for the New Orleans Saints. Even though year one with the Bucs has been like pulling teeth, we're 2-11. It's pretty disappointing. We do get our first breakout scenario here ahead of Week 15 matchup against the Green Bay Packers, and it is Logan Hall, definitely one of the younger players that is stuck on a normal dev, that is not hit as a pick IRL or even in Madden for the Tampa Bay Bucs as a top pick. Was Hall a first rounder? It's either a first rounder or a second rounder. So if he can go up dev trait, that would definitely be a nice piece here for our defensive line, for our pass rush. But Willie is a different story as we lose 28-21. But Logan Hall also sucks still. Great. Cool. So at the end of year one, we definitely picked the shittiest team to start with for the first year. The Bucs go 3-14. Saints have a somewhat respectable record. Falcons, somewhat respectable record. Panthers went off 13-4. Did the Falcons sneak into the playoffs? They unfortunately did not. So Carolina is our one hope from the division. Shut out Bryce Young. Got a tough matchup there against Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, and the Vikings. But as we lick our wounds here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, about as terrible as you could ask for. Baker Mayfield, the offense struggled. I already know we're probably going to be losing a dev trait or a 2. We found out Cody Mock's dev trait is star. Noah Fant at tight end. Didn't really elevate the offense the way that I was hoping. Elijah Cansey's hidden dev is also a star. We didn't have a single dev trait scenario hit. The lone one was Logan Hall there on the defense, which it's a little bit of a bummer for sure. Taking a look at the stats. Come on, let's see something that's just outright depressing. Baker Mayfield, horrible. 18 interceptions to 14 tutties. Not nearly good enough. Running the ball, I guess it's not a brutal year from Rachaad White. The 1,000-yard streak for Mike Evans wasn't even close. I think he'll hit it in real life, though. I think he's at like 500 yards right now. He's on pace to continue the 1,000-yard streak. But God love Baker Mayfield for ruining Mike Evans' streak. Even Chris Godwin in the slot couldn't eat at all. Noah Fant didn't even, might as well not even have made that trade, to be honest with you. Defensively, Lavonte David and Devin White, both tackle machines. We did not get any sacks whatsoever, which is on brand for a 3-4 sim. Troyan Shinkov had 14 TFLs, 16 TFLs for Vita Vea. 5-pick Carlton Davis, 3 from Christian Eisen, the rookie out of Rutgers, who's actually looked pretty solid. 3 picks Jamel. So the interceptions are not too bad, but those sacks are downright dis-freaking-respectful. Kind of just looking around the rest of the division really, really quick. I think for the Atlanta Falcons, Desmond Ridder, we wanted to see what he was going to do in the Falcons offense. Not that great. 22 touchdowns, 15 picks. Luckily, Bijan Robinson was able to crush it. Drake London almost got 1,000 yards defensively. Troy Anderson actually had a hell of a year. 11.5 sacks from Calais Campbell. 4 picks Richie Grant, but pretty disappointing. All things considered, knowing how good the Falcons are in the sim with those Desmond Ridder numbers. The Saints were competitive, but still definitely not the kind of numbers that scream I can go on and win you in Super Bowl out of Derek Carr, which was expected. Over 1,000 there for Kamara. Hell of a year from Chris Olave, going 102 catches, 1,300 yards, 7 tutties, double digits from Michael Thomas. Defensively, Pete Werner over 100 tackles with 3 picks. We got 10.5 sacks from Cam Jordan. Decent year from Granderson. Couple picks there across. Love seeing Cookie Monster tied for first with 3. But the Panthers were the surprise, making the playoffs. Double-digit wins, 26 tutties to 13 picks for Bryce Young. It's not ridiculous. Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard were a great 1-2 punch in the backfield. No 1,000-yard receivers, but almost 1,000 for Thielen. That's an outstanding rookie season for Mingo. 900 yards with 12 touchdowns, thriving out of the slot there. Shaq Thompson, 100 tackles, 8 TFLs, 4 sacks, 3 picks. So we just pad the stat sheet. 11 sacks from Derek Brown, 7 from Frankie Louvu. A very disappointing 5.5 out of Brian Burns. We pretty much called he was losing that superstar dev, which is very likely. And interceptions, not that great. Very surprising. The Panthers, you wouldn't believe that they had that kind of record based off of these numbers. But is what it is. We'll see how far they go, but ultimately we'll pick back up in the offseason here, year one, with the Bucs. Unfortunately, in the first round, the Vikings knock off Bryce Young in the Adam Thielen revenge game, 24-21, in a game where Bryce Young just didn't do enough. Kirk Cousins had 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. We did continue to run the ball. That is definitely something to keep an eye on. Chuba and Miles Sanders are a great 1-2 punch, but you need a little bit more out of your rookie quarterback if you expect to go on a playoff run. Pretty big retirements. Only 2 teams getting affected, but Taysom Hill and more importantly, Cam Jordan has retired for the Saints. So that means it's opening up a door for Isaiah Foskey to be a starter at defensive end next season. And we have Calais Campbell and Cordero Patterson retiring for the Falcons. So some decent turnover there. So for the Bucs, we are going to pick up the 5th-year option here on Joe Tryon-Shinka, but we are in the red. So we're going to deal with this, and I'm probably going to have to hop over to the Saints as well, as both these teams need to get under the salary cap, so tough decisions need to get made. I should have actually checked this, given the fact that we had Bryce Young and Bijan Robinson in year one of the rebuild, but Bijan Robinson did win Offensive Rookie of the Year. Full kudos to him. What a monster. I would say actually surprisingly and maybe even shockingly enough, the Saints are under the salary cap. Must have been the retirement of Taysom Hill, who's expensive, and the pass rusher there that is expensive in Cam Jordan. So that gives us a little bit of wiggle room here. Actually offer a contract to Ruiz, 78 star dev guard. We'll keep him locked in, which I actually think in real life they did give him a contract extension. So we're kind of lined up there. But we're going to go back to our beloved Bucs here, our year one team, and get under the salary cap. All right, luckily enough for our team, there's one cut that we can easily make to get under the salary cap and one fall swoop, and that is going to be moving on from Russell Gage. Appreciate you for your service, boss. So going into free agency, both the Bucs and the Saints did everything they could to get under the salary cap, so they're not going to be able to splash big money. But we're looking at the Atlanta Falcons, who are targeting Josh Allen. Pretty big offer right now. We're going to see how that all falls out. I think they were behind the Patriots, and that is where Josh Allen ends up signing. That is a little bit of a tough one there for them to target. We also had the Falcons looking at Jordan Brooks, who's pondering it over, and we have the Panthers. Now, we used Donovan Peoples-Jones in the last rebuild. We had him go into the New York Giants, and that didn't really work out too well. Didn't really, emerge as a wide receiver one. Hopefully, we get a little bit different role here with the Panthers, getting DPJ to join a room that has Jonathan Mingo, who popped off a little bit, who has Adam Thielen being a beast. But let's just wait and see. The last target here is Jordan Brooks, potentially signing with the Falcons. And he does. So Falcons get themselves a little bit of a big fish in free agency. But looking at the draft, just a quick overall preview, and it all comes down to the quarterback. There's good players in every single spot, but the fact that we are going to be aggressive with the bad Bucs, looking for a QB. There's no QB I don't think really worth trading up for. I've kind of broken down, they all look decent. I'm not seeing generational. I think the best of the bunch will be Scotty Barrett. No one has elite throw power outside of him, so I think that will be kind of the difference maker. He is a top fit for our scheme as well. And the good news is we do not have to trade up to get our quarterback, as he's projected to go like pick 11 or 12, and we're picking at, 3 or 4? Go at pick 3 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Oh, does Welch have elite throw power? Only is great. Better stats, but you go with the throw. We're going to go with the throw power against maybe our better judgment. Lesser grades, better throw power. Scotty Barrett, welcome to Tampa Bay. Hopefully that is our new franchise quarterback. 94 throw power. Pretty decent athlete as well. Prototypical size at 6'6", 234. No pressure. Just you need to be a superstar minimum. Now, the Saints are up at pick 16, and we come back to quarterback, but a little less needy because we still have Derek Carr for one more season. It's too expensive to move on from Derek Carr. But I guess the question is, knowing that we're going to have Derek Carr on the roster for at least another season, do we draft this quarterback, or do we wait till next year's draft class where maybe we're super aggressive with the Saints, hope for a slightly better role, and, trade up to even all the way up to potentially pick 1 to get our QB? This guy, he looks solid. He also looks like he very well could be like a 72 normal. And I feel like that would be the worst thing here, is just not finding our quarterback. And I feel like if there's not a QB that I'm in love with, I think we need to pivot a little bit. And we're looking at the Saints. Terms of needs, I think we could also look at defensive tackle and get someone on that defensive line to pair with Brian Brzee. And there is some solid options for sure. I think the best of the bunch is Brandon McAllister, who had A tackle, B finesse move at 6'4", 309 with elite strength. He's the guy that might be there in the second round, also might not be. We also could look at Dom Manning, who's also a scheme fit out of Michigan. We wanted to get a player that's going a little bit early. I also think safety. We have a very, very old safety room, and you have Jerry Davis with the double A's here. You want to see that more in the coverage, but kind of is what it is. Jerry Davis looks legit. Darren Cunningham also looks fairly legit, because Marcus May and Honey Badger aren't getting any younger, and if things come push to shove, honestly, we might need to grab a safety here. Double B's. If one of these guys is a freak athlete between Reddick or Jerry Davis, we might have to just go unconventional early pick. They're not. Neither one of those guys are absolute ball. This is a tough one. This is a very tough first pick. I am going to go. I think McAllister is going to be the value. I think he has the best looking ratings. He has elite strength. Got the dev trait, 95 strength powerhouse out of Florida. A little bit of a reach. Well, we got our guy. We got our D tackle too long term next to Brian Breezy. Next up, we got the Atlanta Falcons at pick 17. Two needs for the Falcons. One is they need wideouts. They need wideouts kind of in a bad way. Unfortunately, I'm not really seeing that like S tier. That's the wideout that we need. Even the wideouts that have like the better letter grades have nothing that really indicate they're going to be, we don't have a whole lot of scouting. This guy might be the best of the bunch. Brian Lake, 6'3", B release, B catch and traffic, C deep route running, runs a 4.39. You know what? We'll grab him. Brian Lake, give me the dev. Let's go. All dev traits, all in the first round. There we go. There's your wide receiver 2 next to Drake London. We got our first pick for the Carolina Panthers. Didn't have a first round pick because of the Bryce Young trade, and I'm just kind of going best athlete available, which we have Michael Sermons has A catch in traffic. He has A medium route running, A spec catch, and he also is the best athlete at tight end in the draft class. Second in the 40-yard dash, top 2 in the 3-cone and 20-yard shuttle. Gives us a long-term option, and we could probably dump the expensive contract of Hayden Hurst. So welcome to Carolina, our safety net for Bryce Young and Michael Sermons. Now we'll finish out the rest of the draft, do a complete recap, and close things out from year one with the Bucs. Take a look at our draft recap, starting with our year one team here in the Bucs. Scotty Barrett, 74 hitting dev. So as long as that dev trait is not a star, I think they're going to be pretty happy with their quarterback of the future. Has a lot of intangibles. That's got to make him great. We have Trevor Evans and Pickett, both hidden devs. Evans at right tackle, Pickett at center. So just kind of getting future successors. Pickett behind Jensen, and Trevor Evans is going to be plug and play at right tackle. We got Connor Atkins in the 4th round, 72 hidden dev. So there is your Levante David successor. Wouldn't be surprised come year 5 if it's not Atkins and Devin White running the middle of the defense. We got 270s late in Meredith and more. So generally speaking, a very good draft. And it's very important to hit on this first draft, more so than any of the year, because these are the guys who are going to get the most development over this 5-year rebuild period. So we crushed it with the Bucs. Moving on to the Atlanta Falcons. Brian Lake, we went height, weight, speed at wide receiver. We need to flush out that receiver room. So we start with a 73 hidden dev. We followed up with another wide receiver pick, getting Lamar Vincent, 76. Had real nice traits. Did not roll a dev trait, though. But say you throw him in the slot, maybe he will be a front runner for Offensive Rookie of the Year, which would then give him a dev trade. And then a gigantic pickup in the 3rd round. This is my BPA sleeper, and we gave that to the Falcons. That is Jonathan General, 75 hidden dev. He's going to actually kick in inside and compete with Troy Anderson and Caden Ellis for, is it Caden Ellis? Christian Ellis? One of the two. One is on Philly, one of them's here. His rating doesn't shove whatsoever. 75 hidden dev in the 3rd round. An absolute home run pick for the Atlanta Falcons. Moving on to the Carolina Panthers. Michael Sermons, always get your athletes. Ladies and gentlemen, 77 hidden dev in the 2nd round. Arguably the best value pick of the draft. That is a long-term safety net that is going to help be able to grow and develop with Bryce Young. We also got a 73 hidden dev guard in the 2nd round. So long to Brad Christmason at that guard spot. Rest of the draft, kind of solid. The Saints, well, we also hit on our picks. This was probably the hardest decision for us to go in the 1st round, passing on a quarterback, but McAllister looks legit, 75 with a hidden dev, bringing that very impressive 95 strength. to the table. We were able to get our top safety available, which is Darren Cunningham, to a safety room that's very old between Marcus May and Honey Badger. So there is a good future successor in that room. 74 with a hidden dev, finishing up with a really nice 5th round pick here. 70 hidden dev corner out of Penn State. Height, weight, speed. Just one of those cheesy corners. Actually, I'm surprised he doesn't have over 90s. He ran like mid 4.4s. But nice pick there. Had good letter grades as well to a secondary that needs to find some guys beyond. He's adding immediate competition between him and the Cookie Monster. So year 1 is over with the Bucs. We left them in a much better spot than where they started. It is time to go to year 2 of this rebuild, which is going to be with the New Orleans Saints. All right, so year 2 of the rebuild. We are here now with the New Orleans Saints, who went very heavy on the defensive side of the ball. Couldn't splurge at free agency because our salary cap is absolutely brutal. And we're going into another year with Derek Carr and really no superstar players on the offense. Even though you can make the argument that Olave at 90 overall is better than having a superstar. Maybe. Who knows? Kind of. Alvin Kamara lost his superstar, which kind of sucks. And, this is what it is. Regression out of Michael Thomas. Derek Carr is Derek freaking Carr. I think the good news, offensive line does look pretty promising. Again, when we kind of previewed the Saints at the very beginning, we get ourselves a left guard. That should be our 5 starting offensive linemen for the entirety of this rebuild. But looking here, we need a quarterback, probably need a younger running back, probably need an upgrade at tight end, and maybe even 2 wide receivers if Michael Thomas is already starting to regress, which kind of sucks. Now, the defense looks a little bit more promising on the defensive line. Foskey, massive shoes to fill, as he is the successor to Cam Jordan. We got McAllister in the draft, 75 hidden dev to go with Breezy. Carl Granderson up a dev trait last season, sitting as an 82 star. So that front 4 looks pretty good. No complete linebacking room, but we'll run a lot of nickel with Demario Davis and Pete Werner on the field. Werner also went up dev trait last season, which is no big deal. We got Marcus May, Honey Badger, and we went out and got a young safety with that 2nd round pick to be a successor. So that's kind of fine. Secondary, dope with Alante Taylor, the Cookie Monster, getting a dev trait up to star. We have Newman there, hidden dev rookie, Adebo, and Lattimore. So I'm not really worried at all about this Saints defense. It's the offense that I think is going to be a little bit tricky, but big picture, is this team going to be contender? Maybe. But I think ultimately our biggest plan here for the Saints in the big picture of this NFC South rebuild is to leave them with a successor to Derek Carr. So honestly, if we end up tanking this year, wouldn't be the end of the world because we need to get ourselves a new QB. And the midway point of our season here with the Saints, year 2, not one breakout scenario. That is kind of a pain in the ass where I thought we would hit it. We did lose against the Cowboys. We did have a player of the week. Shout out to Chris Olave, who went nuclear. 8 catches, 200 yards, and 3 touchdowns. We said he was as good as a superstar, even though he's on star dev, and he is at least playing like that. We're shifting all of our focus, scouting on the quarterback spot. 3 and 4, not brutal, knowing that Derek Carr is our starting quarterback. So we'll upgrade our squad there just a little bit. But we are right ahead of the trade deadline. Question needs to be, are we going to sell anybody to give us extra ammunition to go grab a quarterback in the upcoming draft? The answer to that is this looks like the worst quarterback class I've ever seen. We got another year, Derek Carr. With only $18 million of available salary cap, it is going to be trimming the fat of some of our veterans. We just can't afford to pay Marcus May, Michael Thomas, Honey Badger. We have a little bit of cash, which I think we need to divvy between Pete Werner at linebacker and, of course, Paulson Adebo in the secondary. Let's see. We're going to try to lowball him here a little bit. Luckily, he takes the money. We're able to get our top 2 targets. But unfortunately, with $6 million remaining, that does not give us a whole lot of wiggle room to go get a quarterback in free agency because there sure as shit isn't going to be one available in the draft. So it's a tough year here to be with the Saints. They must have nerfed dev trait breakouts. I did not get a single breakout this season. Not one! Which is unbelievable. We go 7-10. Panthers underperform at 7-10. Bucs at 5-12, probably where they should be. Falcons 9-8 win the division, sneak into the playoffs, but definitely a down year from the South, especially because I hyped this up as well. I'm going to be building 4 juggernauts. Takes time. It takes a little bit of time, but I think the Saints are the most hard done by going forward just because there's no path to improving the quarterback room. I guess kudos to Derek Carr and company for having the number 4 passing offense in the NFL. Taking a look at our stats, Derek Carr didn't play brutal. Also, I mean, the yards are fine. Touchdowns, 22 tutties to 13 picks is not ideal. Alvin Kamara had a solid season. Chris Olave continues to be the best wide receiver across this division. 1,006 for Michael Thomas, which is really, really nice. Defensively, Demario Davis and Warner, our two main linebackers, were tackle machines. Kyle Granderson with 8.5 sacks is pretty damn impressive. 4 picks for Marshawn Lattimore. But back-to-back years, no playoffs for the Saints, and the idea that they brought in Derek Carr to be this guy that could elevate them in the playoffs just really hasn't been the case so far. Looking at the rest of the teams in the division, the Panthers who underperformed. Bryce Young still played kind of well. Miles Sanders went over 1,000. Adam Thielen went over 1,000. But this is the second rebuild in a row where I've paid money to Donovan Peoples-Jones, and he's just not him. He's not a guy. Mingo with a respectable season defensively. Shaq Thompson was pretty nice. They got a little bit of pressure here. 8 sacks for Burns, 7 from Derek Brown. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who again fall victim to the 3-4 not getting sacks, but 7 and 7 for Villa and Shoyinka, not brutal. We have on the receiving end, Mike Evans just can't get 1,000 yards, which, I mean, come on, code that into the goddamn sim. Mike Evans should be walking to 1,000 yards. And their offense, man, back-to-back years, their quarterback, Baker Mayfield, and now top 5 picks, Scotty Barrett, more interceptions than tutties, and he is just star dev, man. That is an absolute, well, I was going to say, did he regress already? A wet fart of a pick. At least it's not normal, but that is not what we were going for the Bucs to find them a franchise quarterback. Definitely not from a stat. There's no reason, if you have Godwin and Mike Evans, and obviously Noah Fant, that you should be going for more interceptions than touchdowns. Is the Bucs scheme just that fucking brutal this year? Maybe. I don't know. And the only team that made the playoffs, the Atlanta Falcons. Desmond Ridder, 3,600 yards, 28 tutties to 11 picks. I think that's good enough to at least keep his job. This is a team that we're going to be taking over next season. Bijan continues to be freaking Bijan. No 1,000-yard receivers. Vincent, the rookie, was solid. Kyle Pitts with a big-time season. 12 touchdowns is huge. Lake, respectable year. Another rookie. Defensively, Jordan Brooks in the general. Killing it. Double digits, triple digits for tackles. No sacks. Again, this is like just the victim. And this is, you're watching firsthand. I believe all these teams outside of New Orleans are 3-4, and there's just fucking 0 sacks. 3-4 defenses suck in Madden for simming, but good enough for the Falcons to be our lone playoff team. We'll kind of follow them along, but ultimately right now, my focus here on the Saints as our year 2 team is just trying to figure out how I can leave them better out than when we started at that quarterback position this offseason. Once again, it is the South going one and done as the Falcons fall to the 49ers 30-24 in a matchup where Desmond Ridder just did not play well enough. 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. You can't turn the ball over like that. Bijan Robinson tried his best to carry the load with a $150 and a tutty, but maybe even more question marks surrounding Desmond Ridder, whether or not he is the guy or not, because we know the Falcons are a good team in the sim. Maybe he's just a placeholder quarterback. And if we actually got someone that's better, they'd be going for 40 tutties a year. So that is something to consider as we make the Falcons our year 3 team. But we'll close it this year and get into this big offseason, especially for the Saints. To close of the season for the Saints, it is desperate at that quarterback spot. Probably the worst quarterback in terms of contract, salary cap implication to rating as it stands in the league right now. So that kind of sucks. But hey, Chris Olave is up to a superstar dev, which is a win. On the defensive side, however, we did lose Demario Davis to retirement, so we will go look at the overall retirements. But McAllister, our first-round pick at D-tackle, popped as a superstar, which is huge. Would have loved to see. I think Graderson had a decent enough year that he could have flirted with a potential dev trade increase. But all in all, not the end of the world. But it will be if we can't find a suitable replacement for Derek Carr, upgrade, if you will, at the quarterback spot. I don't know why it won't let me look at the yearly awards here. Just kind of weird, just because I want to see one offensive or defensive rookie of the year. But anyways, more so focusing on the retirements in the South. It is Demario Davis and wide receiver 1 in Carolina, Adam Thielen, hanging up the cleats. First obvious piece of business for the Saints is picking up the 5th-year option on Chris Olave with $19 million remaining of salary cap. And we'll pick up the 5th-year option on Trevor Penning. We're not going to be able to pay, like, again, it's just all of our money needs to go into just waiting and seeing who is available at quarterback. All right, we got to find a way to make this happen, and I don't know if we can. But if we can get Tua in New Orleans, I've done my job. And luckily, we can get a little bit of breathing room. Still a lot of dead cap. But we're going to go for it. We're going to release Derek Carr, frees up about $20 million of available salary cap. I'll check the rest of the roster and see if we can make an all-out push to bring Tua to New Orleans. All right, I think we've done enough to at least give Tua the biggest offer we can. We'll give him a very player-friendly deal. It was $400 million. Puts us tie. Oh, come on. They don't. This would be so dumb. They have C.J. Stroud. They are not moving off from C.J. Stroud here. Come on, man. Big fish for the Bucs. I'm going to go see if we can get Nick Chubb into this backfield and maybe take a little bit of pressure off of our quarterback. A big bid there from the Cardinals as well. Come on. We're better than Arizona. Like the worst management team in the whole league. Falcons desperately need 3-4 defensive end, nose tackle. And it's just the kind of role that we got here. Nothing, not that even remotely needle moving. I suppose you can get someone like Fletcher Cobb, but even then he's 76. Not going to do a lot for you. So I think our free agency planner for the Falcons, this is the team we are going to be taking over. I think we just save that salary cap so we can pay our own guys next season. This one is painful, but I think our biggest need for the Carolina Panthers is we need another linebacker that not only can play next to Shaq Thompson, but be a successor. Unfortunately, just classic Madden, we have to pay edge rusher prices for either shot at the two best inside linebackers. So we're going to have to, unfortunately, bite the bullet here and try to bring in J.O.K. So the Panthers are my main starting point here. This is how I can progress free agency. We got to watch Nick Chubb to the Bucs, Tua to the Saints, and J.O.K. to the Panthers are the big fish. And we get Nick Chubb to the Bucs. We get J.O.K. is looking around. It won't be the biggest loss if we don't have to get it. But I don't even want to look. Please go to the Saints. Please go to the Saints. Yes, Tua. We leave the Saints with a brand new quarterback and J.O.K. and he can go F himself. Going to the draft, our first pick here is at pick 5 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I think their biggest need is pass rusher. There's no home run, top 5 projected pick at pass rush, but we have Demetrius Okoye, who at 6'3", 280, has a power move, and you're 280 running in a 4.6. I think it's really between him. It's not even the top available, but I think it's between Demetrius Okoye or you have just in terms of value, Joey Searles, the pass rusher out of A&M, 6'5", 242. No, everything else is kind of just a blind pick at this point. So I think, even though I'm a little worried that the conversion from a defensive end to an outside linebacker might hurt his rating a little bit, I do think Demetrius Okoye is probably our best get. And he looks solid, but no dev trait. That is a bummer. Next up, we have the Carolina Panthers at pick 9, and their biggest need, I think, is 3-4 defensive end, which could be said for pretty much all of these teams. I think Dalton Fitzpatrick, it's either between him or you go with the actual 3-4 defensive end and Mello Vincent, who has A, block set, B, power move. But push comes to shove, these D tackles, these are always where the value's at in converting them to a 3-4 defensive end. And Fitzpatrick with B block set, B finesse, B tackle at 6'6", 320 is the best athlete out of the group. Therefore, I'm going to make him the first pick. And we at least end the streak of normal dev first-round picks at 1 by bringing in Fitzpatrick here. 92 strength, 85 acceleration at 320 pounds. He's going to be an absolute stud. Now, the Saints have a lot of holes because expensive roster, aging roster, paid all of our money to get Tua in. I think the biggest need is just selling out on the offensive side of the ball, and we're going with the highest rated wide receiver available. Forrest Gardner out of Texas is a deep threat speedster. Be released, sea catching, 6 feet tall, ran a 4.29 elite speed to play on the other side of Chris Olave, and that looks like he's going to be very studly. Our last first-round pick for the division is the team we're going to be taking over for year 3, and that is the Atlanta Falcons. They need nose tackle and defensive end, 3-4 defensive end help. There's one nose tackle available. We're going to kind of wait and see. He doesn't look anything spectacular, but we are going to grab the highest rated 3-4 defensive end. Our left is Mello Vincent out of Florida State. A block shed, B power move, comes in with elite strength, putting up 38 reps on the bench press. Not the best athlete, but you never really get those guys at 3-4 D ends. Ooh. Not what you're looking for. Normal dev. So looking at our draft recap, starting with our New Orleans Saints, Forrest Gardner trying to surround Tua with similar weapons that he had in New Orleans. We don't got the fastest guy we possibly could, who's going to be a nice wide receiver too for the offense. We also, in the 3rd round, got them a very good value pick here in Christian Price at left guard. That's been a position we tried to find a successor for Andrew Speed for a minute. So happy with those limited selections, but we needed them. We have the Carolina Panthers. They got in the 1st round Fitzpatrick at D tackle, hidden dev. He is going to actually play 3-4 defensive end. I mean, he could also play nose tackle in this scheme, but we're going to move him to 3-4 defensive end. He's going to play on the other side of Derek Brown. They got a great linebacker here in the 3rd round. Cam Baker, 74 with a head and dev. So even though they missed out on JOK in free agency, which would have been a disgusting overpay, because Madden needs to fix that. Cam Baker, great value there. We also got a 71 running back late hidden dev at a Michigan State, Sharif Baskerville, to come in. And obviously Chuba Hubbard hit free agency, so he's going to be the backup behind Miles Sanders. We have the also up here, the Bucs, who just keeps whiffing on picks. Top 5 pick, normal dev. Got a quarterback last year. Star dev, more interceptions than tutties. I think I feel a little bad. I am underselling here the Bucs. And we get a running back who's just BPA, because even though we got a Band-Aid in Nick Chubb, not necessarily the long-term option. And then we got Mike Irvin, not that Mike Irvin, the other Mike Irvin from West Virginia at corner to add some competition for that corner 3 spot behind Jamel Dean and Carlton Davis. And the team that we're going to be taking over in year 3, the Atlanta Falcons. 1st round, Mello Vincent, who we talked about a couple times, decided to pass over him, ended up getting him 74 with a normal dev. A little bit of a wet fart. We get the nose tackle, the only nose tackle in the draft, George Tate. Decent rating as well, but still normal dev. So you're really going to need to bank on one of those 2 guys getting Defensive Rookie of the Year, which could help them bump up their dev trade. We also get a 70 running back there as RB2 behind Bijan, because if Algiers has any trade value, we might need to trade him this season. But for year 2, closing up on the Saints, we got them Tua, we got them a quarterback, we got them a speedster. I think they're definitely looking on the up here going forward for this rebuild, unlike, say, the Bucs, unfortunately. Now year 3 of the NFC South rebuild. We're here with the Atlanta Falcons, the only team to make the playoffs last year. And taking a look, the offense looks solid. O-line, pretty strong. Kyle Pitts still a 95 X factor. Maybe surprisingly, Bijan Robinson and Drake London haven't gone up dev trait. But Bijan at least hasn't lost his superstar dev trait, which is nice. We've drafted wide receivers. You got Lake there, Vincent, 80 normal. Algier. Is there value in trading him? He is on the trade block. But what can we get for him right away? Tyre Elam, Jack Conklin. I'll take this Elam deal. And of course, classic. Buffalo offering a trade. They don't have the salary cap. Okay. Well, big question on the offense is Desmond Ridder. We're getting pretty close to the time that we got to decide whether or not he's worth paying or not. I guess he's been winning for the most. That's a positive. Winning is the only thing that matters. If you quote Jalen Hurts, Desmond Ridder has done that. It would be a little bit of a different story when he's wanting $200 million if we can justify paying them. But I'm going to be optimistic that he's going to play great football this year, go over 30 tutties, maybe even challenge for a superstar dev. But speaking of devs, the dev traits that have been growing here for the past 2 seasons on the Falcons defense has been immaculate. The front 3 stings to that our 1st round pick was normal dev. It's definitely a weakness. But beyond that, Generals, who was a 3rd round pick, I think at linebacker, popped as an X factor. Jordan Brooks, who we signed as a star dev from the Seahawks, goes up to a superstar. Richie Grant was a star. He's now a superstar. Jesse Bates was a superstar. He's now an X factor. Jeff Okudah was a normal. We talked about him and his potential career revival here in Atlanta. Hitting it. He's an 82 star right now. So very, very optimistic with how the Falcons defense has developed that we are going to make the playoffs. Our first year featuring a team that we make the playoffs. I'm very optimistic that we'll be able to do that here with Atlanta. Also say we have, through 2 seasons, only 1 breakout scenario in season, and that was back with the Bucs. Can we get one here with Atlanta? Please. They 100% have nerfed it. But I've done enough rebuilds in this game, last year's game. If you, maybe if you're a super team, you wouldn't see it. Maybe a lot of start. But I have more than enough normal dev players that are starting that I should be getting at least 2 dev trait breakout scenarios a year. We've got 1 in 2 full seasons. It's ridiculous. Crushing it with the Falcons, even though week 8, no breakouts, is what it is. 5-2, sitting atop the NFC South, feeling pretty good. Currently with the number 3 offense in the NFL, led by Bijan Robinson and the number 2 rushing offense in the league. Looking at some contracts here. Who are going to be integral parts in this? Okay, we'll pay Kyle Pitts right away. He's been incredible. $80 million. This is, I think, the wait and see. Luckily, it's not. I thought thered be a 1, honestly, in front of that 65. Desmond Ridder sitting here, 65 mil. Will he take a neutral offer? He will not. If that's the case, we're going to wait till the end of the season then, bud. Can you get more than 23 passing touchdowns? If so, I'll give you more money. If not, you're just the operator of the conductor of this. You're not necessarily elevating the team. It's not that hard. I can find anybody for less than 60 mil to hand the ball off to Bijan Robinson if that's the case. We'll give Arnold Ebiketie a 3-year deal. We'll give Grady Jarrett a one. You know, obviously, I want him to retire. He's a Falcon great. We'll give him a 2-year deal, especially with how difficult it's been to get 3-4 players. I mean, like 3-4 defensive front players in this rebuild so far. You know, McGarry, again, 1-year deal. He's probably going to be the highest rated right tackle on the open market. So we will keep him, and it's just a massive wait and see here for Desmond Ridder. Ooh, we got one. We beat the Panthers 28-21 in a massive NFC South battle. Look at the T's. They're finally getting it all together. Falcons, 8-3. Great. Saints with Tua, 8-3. Panthers, 7-4. Bucks are still figured out, and they're still 6-5, which is respectable. But we get a player of the week performance here in this victory, going to Arnold Ebiketie. 2 sacks and interception, so I can assume this is going to be a breakout scenario for him. He's currently on a star dev, so that's going to be an opportunity to make a gigantic jump up and get a superstar edge rusher, which that could be absolutely a difference maker. Someone that can single-handedly elevate your defense, get some abilities. The sim favors said abilities, and it's a very winnable matchup for him to go off against the 4-7 Arizona Cardinals. Come on, Arnold. We crushed them 38-14. Ebiketie does! Let's go! Gets the superstar. We also have another breakout for the Falcons. Falcons have really been the only team, sim, because obviously we haven't controlled them fully, that have gone up lots of dev traits throughout this rebuild. And we have a D-line here, and it's Mello Vincent, our first-round pick, which was disappointingly a normal dev. We were kind of more so banking on him getting Defensive Rookie of the Year to go up to a star. But if we can hit that in season here against a 4-8 Seahawks team, that is going to be gigantic for the defense. Double dev traits back-to-back weeks. We win 28-21. It is a close matchup, and Vincent goes up dev trait. Let's go. We've had no dev trait luck at all in this video. Luckily, we get it back-to-back weeks. God, we are rolling 11-3, and look, this is the most important dev trait scenario you could possibly get. Desmond Ridder, contract year, looking to become a superstar dev quarterback. The kind of elevation to his game I think we need. 1 or fewer interceptions, 350 scrimmage yards, or 4 total tutties. Who are we playing? It's the Rams? He's probably not hitting this, fellas. Dallas is Dallas. Then again, if there is a equally cheesy playbook or close to the error code of cheese playbook, it would be the Falcons. 45-31. What are the odds we did all that with Bijan Robinson going off, and it's not Desmond Ridder? And I think this is a wet fart of like, well, our quarterback hand the ball off well to Bijan Robinson. No superstar dev. As we close out year 3, we absolutely handle business this season with the number 2 offense in the NFL. We go 14-3. Panthers, Bucks, and Saints. The Bucks got hot, 11-6. I thought the Saints with Tua would win the division, honestly. And, I mean, still respectively at 9-8. But neither team started out particularly hot this season. Falcons are the 1 seed. Panthers make it as the 7. Unfortunately, nothing for the Saints or the Bucks. But that's fine. Got 2 shots. 2 shots at getting a Super Bowl champion here. And obviously, it's cool that it's the other team that we're going to be being next year in Carolina to kind of close out our individual seasons here. That is trending at the right direction, peaking at the right time. But take a look at our stats here. 37 tutties for Desmond Ridder. We're going to have to pay him. I think push comes to shove. His price is going to be probably going up a lot more than that 60 mil. But I think we have more than enough salary cap to pay him such. Bijan Robinson, ridiculous season. No 1,000-yard receivers, but pretty cool that Drake London goes for 11 tutties, 10 for Kyle Pitts. Defensively, look at that. Jonathan Generals, 116, 7 TFLs, 6.5 sacks, leading the team, which just, again, speaks to how terrible 3-4 pass rushing numbers are. I mean, we can beat a dead horse. Talk about it every year. AJ Terrell leading the team with 4 picks. Look at the rest of the team. Panthers, the other playoff team. Anything crazy there? Well, 15 sacks from Luvu, 11 from Burns, 10 from Derek Brown. So they figured out how to rush the passer. DPJ goes over 1,000 yards. Miles Sanders goes over 1,000 yards. Bryce Young, respectable season. 2 on his first year with the Saints. 32 touchdowns, 7 tutties, or 7 picks, with 4,000 yards passing. Kamara goes over 1,000. Chris Olave continues to be dominant. A.T. Perry and Moreau, both with double-digit tutties. Pete Warner was solid. No real sacks. 6.5 for Breezy. Is Ait. What about the Bucks? Winfield with 3 picks, 9.5 sacks. Troyan Shoyinka, Vita Vea with a decent year. Still, I mean, you just can't get Mike Evans over 1,000. Nick Chubb crushed it, though. 1,500 yards, 17 tutties. And hey, their quarterback threw more touchdowns than interceptions this year. Congrats. Unfortunately, the playoffs, the Panthers lose a close one, 17-14 to the LA Rams. So all the pressure is on us here in Atlanta as the 1 seed to bring our first Super Bowl to the division. And it starts against the 5 seed 49ers. 49ers are legit. Better overall than us, 89 overall, even though they did not sim as well. 2 very prolific rushing offenses as well. As it's going to be Christian McCaffrey against Bijan Robinson. We're going to quickly spend the upgrade here for Mr. Ritter and see if we can use our home field advantage to get a spot in the NFC Championship game. We're probably going to play the Dallas Cowboys, but that is fine. I'll pick the Rams, 24-14 with a weekly performance. Desmond Ritter? We got to pay him, man. He's getting the job done. 3 total touchdowns on the day and gives us a shot to feature in a Super Bowl. The team standing in our way is the 84 overall LA Rams, who bring a top 5 passing offense, top 5 overall defense, led by Aaron Donald. But Atlanta is on fire. We have so many weapons on offense and defense. Fuck. I mean, Ritter crushed it again. Honey Badger left our Saints, goes to the Rams, makes the Super Bowl. But Desmond Ritter doing his job. We got to pay him. Hopefully we have enough to pay. I think we do have enough salary cap. What happened in this matchup, though, fellas? Come on. The Rams, dude. Ugly loss to the Rams, 17-14. Ugh. You know, I honestly feel like the difference makers, they got Cooper Kupp. They got Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald, and Aaron Donald didn't even do anything, man. Brutal loss. Brutal. All the retirements, Hayden Hurst, tight end for, it doesn't matter. We already drafted the successor there in Carolina. But Jake Matthews is a loss here for the Falcons. One of the most consistent and reliable tackles in the league. Wow, no dev trait for Desmond Ritter, huh? Lindstrom wins lineman of the year. He goes up to a superstar. Bijan up to an X factor, but nothing for Ritter. I still got to pay him. Playing very, very well on the defense. Pope, our hidden dev corner, superstar. Bates did lose his X factor. Brooks lost his superstar, but Kuda gained a superstar. Vincent in season gained his dev trait. Sucks that Eviketti just quickly lost that superstar. That's a bummer, but I think Falcons are still going to be really, really strong next season as long as we can extend Desmond Ritter. So let's do it for the Falcons. Obviously going to pick up the 5th-year option on Bijan, but we need to pay Desmond Ritter. His contract's like doubled. But we have more than enough money to pay him if we need to, so we're going to make sure with this, I don't want to have to get into the murky waters of franchise tag. 6 years, $234 million for Desmond Ritter. Hopefully he can get them back to a championship game. All right, so a free agency recap. We were aggressive with, you know, our collection of teams here, and we swung and missed a lot. We did get Trent Brown for the Atlanta Falcons leaving. That's a big-time upgrade for them at left tackle. We swung and missed Joe Thuney, trying to bring him in to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That was really the big bid that we had from the Bucs camp. We were able to improve a little bit on the defensive side of the ball for most of our teams. Got a Kobe Dean going to the New Orleans Saints. That's a great get at linebacker. Best linebacker available. We swung and missed. Almost every team I bid on David Ajabo, and god damn it, Howie Roseman poaches him away, which is absolutely annoying. Dante Jackson leaves the Panthers, and they replace him with Kyler Gordon. I don't know why. Oh, he's actually here on right now. We got Kyler Gordon here. We got Micah Hyde at safety as well, trying to get a little bit of talent here and value. Caden Stearns trying to retool here this Panthers secondary before we take over with them here in year 4. But shout out for our final move for the Atlanta Falcons, getting a big time, maybe even arguably the second biggest signing on the open market, landing Trent Brown, which could be enough to take them to the Super Bowl. Put them over that hump for year 4 and 5. Our first pick of the draft goes to the Saints at pick 16. They need tight end and or linebacker. And I think we go out and get Tua, the best athlete, at the tight end spot. Worked out well for us when we were drafting a tight end at a need for the Carolina Panthers. Hopefully we get the exact... Give me the goddamn dev traits, man! Still should be a good player, but brutal, man. A guy with that kind of athletic profile, normal dev, sucks. For the Bucs, on the clock at pick 18, we desperately need pass rush help. 3-4 outside linebacker, and just nothing, man. If you're not picking top 10, You don't have a shot. The best is just the guy with the 3 Bs here. Nate Glover out of Penn State, who is way too big to be a 3-4 defensive end, but you got to do what you got to do. Hey, at least we roll a dev trade. And we're going to definitely trot him out at 3-4 outside linebacker, 290 pounds. Hey, it works with the Rams do it with Hoyt. Why can't we do it with Nate Glover? Now we have the Carolina Panthers at pick 24. This is going to be the team that we take over next year. And my need for the Panthers is, we got a bunch. I think safety. Given the fact that it is pretty strong at safety. It's more so strong safety because we have Micah Hyde free. And we have 2 guys that look, you know, blind picking for the most part. Anthony McCain is the top projected one. Decent athlete, top 5 in everything that you want to look for. Wish we knew a little bit more than the fact that he has D-man coverage. We have Malik Cook out of Virginia Tech. Little bit more information. This is going to be our guy here. Got to go with the best athlete. And, of course, no dev trade. Because why not? Let's not have nice things. We finish up the first round at pick 30 with our Atlanta Falcons, where our need is we got wide receivers. We have Kyle McLeod at 6'5". We want to go more with the big possession guy, but I feel like with Kyle Pitts, we already have that. So why not add speed? A deep route running here on Andrew Vogel out of UCLA. Elite acceleration, elite agility. Wish he had great speed, but I think we can get the dev trade on the athletes, which, did this get patched as well? 9 times out of 10, the freak athletes, the great athletes had dev traits. Not the case anymore. We just don't get breakout scenarios in season or good dev trait players, I guess. And our lasting impact for our feature team here for the Atlanta Falcons, we get Vogel, 75, no dev trait, which is not the first time we've got a high round pick at wide receiver for the Falcons with no dev, but hopefully this is a nice little speed element that we can add. They also get a 72 tackle for the rest of the teams. We have the Bucks, who got themselves, you know, this is going to look bad because you can't even take that rating. He's probably going to go in the 60s. It's going to be a 60 first round pick when you move this guy to edge. He will be right yes, he'll be right outside linebacker, and he goes to a 69, which is absolutely brutal. But in the second round, they did get Alonzo Brinkley, a 75 guard, who's going to be able to plug and play for them. So that is a pretty good fit. We have the Carolina Panthers. Actually, we'll go with the Saints first and finish up with the Panthers. Saints had a great draft. Taylor Fields at tight end, 76. No dev, but a outstanding skill set who probably puts him near the top of the list of guys who can win Offensive Rookie of the Year. They got Wayne Overton, middle linebacker in the second round, 75. Normal dev. Can't buy a dev trade. And they finish up doubling up on tight ends, getting Will Peters, 74 with a hidden dev. So at least they can walk away with a dev trade. And we finish up with the Carolina Panthers, who in the first round got Malik Cook at safety. No dev. Brutal. But great ratings across the board. They got DeAndre Samuel, not related to Debo. Maybe actually, yeah, that could be kind of cool. Wisconsin, but 74 hidden dev running back. Miles Sanders get up there in age a little bit. They got Bernie Anthony, a 73 normal dev center, a little bit late. They also finished up with a 70 corner Nick Brown out of Mizzou. Pretty solid draft. And we make our fourth stop of the video here with the Carolina Panthers, who I think are getting ready to play their best football. Bryce Young up to a 92 superstar. I'm actually going to give Samuel the rookie second round pick because he has the dev trait. A little bit more upside. Sanders is going to regress. I think it's do or die. Plus, I'm going to gamble that is going to be better than a star dev. Or put him in a position to get Offensive Rookie of the Year. So that if it is a star dev, we can finish with a superstar running back. Offensive line, still pretty strong across the board. We got a superstar tight end here in Michael Sermons, who is an absolute stud. Freak. One of the best young tight ends in the NFL. Can kind of rival Kyle Pitts in the division. You got Mingo and DPJ, as long as Visca Chenault at wide receiver. Feel pretty optimistic about the offense. Defensively, maybe lacking star talent at this point, but Luga's superstar. Still got Brian Burns at 92. We got J.C. Horn, the Horn Dog, up to a 90. Derek Brown, a 90. So no one really with any abilities, but I think this is still very much a playoff team, which they've shown 2 times already in this rebuild. So at least we kind of continue the trend here with the Carolina Panthers, sitting at 4-3, very competitive NFC South. No freaking breakouts to even talk about, which is an absolute bummer. The good news is we have almost $100 million of available salary cap. I think some of that is due to the fact that we haven't had a great free agency role outside of Tua to the Saints here in this rebuild, but we also are going to be able to really keep a lot of our own talent. We'll come back to the table with Ike Ekwonu. That's a tough contract. We should be able to get that over the line. Mingo is a really nice wide receiver too, even though I think we do need to maybe be a little bit aggressive in trying to find a legitimate, unstoppable wide receiver 1 for Bryce Young, which I think that will be our top target in free agency. we'll definitely be able to extend Ike Ekwonu and still roll in with probably close to $50 million on the open market here in the year 4 offseason. Jesus Christ, look at these records. Falcons go 15-2, which I do think on paper they probably have the strongest roster. Bucks go 13-4. I think on paper they have the weakest roster. Kind of surprised. Carolina 10-7. Saints 10-7. This is, again, familiar to what we saw happen the last time we did a rebuild like this. This is kind of the point. It's so difficult. Every divisional game is going to be ridiculous. Look at our squad here. As we wrap up, Samuel is X Factor. I had a good feeling about it. Big-time athlete. We made the right call, giving him the starting gig right away, and versus, you know, maybe keeping the veteran approach and letting Sanders be the starter there. Yeah, we feel pretty good about that for sure. Again, I think with Cook to our first-round pick, he played a lot. Would have been real nice to get a breakout scenario for him, but those have been few and far between. It kind of just maybe is the state of Madden. So let's see what happens here with, we should have, what, at least 3 teams in the playoffs. I don't know if the Saints made it, but we have the Falcons, who are the 1 seed. We take on Dallas, which probably know what's going to happen there. And we have the 5 seed Bucks taking on the 4 seed Seahawks. I would say 2. Give me 2 teams in the next round, and I'd feel okay about that. It's going to be very tough to beat Dallas. They are the sim gods, and that's what happens. We ran right into them in the blender as we fall 35-14, which is kind of a wet fart. Did the Bucks at least handle business against the Seahawks? They also lose. So everything, yet again, back-to-back seasons, is on the Atlanta Falcons to win a Super Bowl. And I'm starting to worry a little bit about this series in regards to, like, is it... Ideally, I build 4 really good teams, and we should be able to run the conference. But I think there's definitely a decent amount of cannibalizing happens on because we have 4 freaking good teams competing for the few limited spots. The Falcons kicked the shit out of the Giants, making the NFC Championship game with a chance to give us our first Super Bowl berth. And obviously, if we can make the Super Bowl, I will switch on over to the Falcons and ride right in the front seat. But we got to see. Tough assignment, man, trying to go up against the Cowboys. And the Cowboys, Dallas Cowboy it. And, yeah. They get, I mean, honestly, they controlled that game. Atlanta made it respectable in the 4th. Garbage time, 21 points in the 4th. But Dak doing Madden 24 Dak things, going for 5 tutties. At least the Ravens beat them. 35-25. We will take that. And in closing, here's a look at our Panthers squad, who's definitely, I think we put them in a spot that they're going to be even better in year 5. We got Bryce Young up to an X Factor. Sermons up to an X Factor. D. Samuel, which we just want to call him Debo, up to an X Factor. Mingo is a superstar. We had big time for, obviously, the regression there of the veterans. Micah Hyde and Shaq Thompson on the defense kind of happens there. But, I mean, outstanding season. Bryce Young, 2nd leading passer in the NFL. 2nd in yards, 41 touchdowns. That is absolute big-time numbers. Nothing crazy out of Samuel. Mingo had a respectable season on the defensive side. Not brutal numbers, you know, for definitely our best 3-4 sim sack numbers in the division. Quickly looking at everybody else. The Saints, just, all right, Foskey. Hell yeah. 14 sacks for Isaiah Foskey. That's badass. Chris Olave continues to be an absolute cheat code. Alvin Kamara, getting up there in age, still putting up big numbers. And Tua, 29 tutties to 5 picks is a pretty good ratio. Barrett's been a solid quarterback. Maybe not lived up the expectations of a top 5 pick. Nick Chubb, offense runs through him. Chris Godwin with an outstanding season. Devin White over 100 tackles, 5 picks, 11 sacks. Choinka, 22 TFLs for Vita Vea is really nice. And the Falcons, the team that kind of carried the load for this division in the playoffs. 10 sacks there from Vincent, 7.5 from Ebiketie. We got a big season there for Kyle Pitts, going over 1,000 yards, 14 touchdowns. 1,000 yards for Drake London. Bijan is going to Bijan, and Desmond Ridder, 36 touchdowns to 8 picks. I really do think all 4 of these teams next year, going into year 5, final year of the rebuild, all of a legitimate shot at winning the Super Bowl. And as far as retirements are concerned, big losses. Trent Brown was literally a 1-year bandit. He was the big get in free agency for the Falcons. He retires, and straight to the Hall of Fame. Mike Evans, after 13, great season with the Bucks, heads into retirement as well. For our final free agency period, pretty much just throw all the money at our biggest needs for every single team, and we hit on the 2 swings for the Carolina Panthers. We get Xavier McKinney at safety, 82 with a star dev, and we get a big nose tackle in DJ Reader with a dev trait, which was exactly what we needed. We also had a couple other players that we're trying to target. We got Marvin Mims, who was the top available wide receiver. He lands with the Bucks. That was their big need that they needed to try to go out and land. We got Ronnie Stanley for the Falcons to replace the retirement of Trent Brown, which is huge. And I think at this point, almost need to play a little bit of favoritism towards the Atlanta Falcons, because I think they're probably going to be our best shot at getting, the kind of players that we're going to need to go on and win a Super Bowl. I just feel like they have the best combination of playbook and everything else in between to go on and be a legitimate baller for us. We got Chenna Wosu at pass rusher for the Atlanta Falcons, which, they need a little bit of help there for sure. Marcus Williams goes back to the Saints to help them maybe potentially go over the edge as well. So throwing all of our money. Now we're going to have one more last good draft and then see if we can find a way to get a Super Bowl winner out of these 4 super teams. So for our final draft, I set my boards, and I'll finish with just like the classic Madden. I set this is supposed to be my hands-off year. I built these all teams. Year 5, they put their best foot forward. Falcons fucked me over and go with the tight end for some reason. Didn't have him high on the board at all. They did get a 72 safety hidden dev in the second round out of Clemson, which was their best pick. But why? We have Kyle Pitts. Don't need that. Usually you could trust your auto board, but this one here was good with the Panthers. We got Adrian Robertson, 74 hidden dev safety. We got 75. This is probably the best pick out of all of our teams. Gabe Etienne out of Washington State. Speedster, 5'8", 184, but a great compliment to DPJ and Jonathan Mingo. 97 speed, 96 acceleration. For the Saints, they, not bad. Just a lot of normal dev. 71 normal dev safety, 75 normal dev D tackle, 74 normal dev corner. All these guys normal dev, but that's time we get, 570 plus from a draft class is great. Here's the dumb one. I had all edge rushers, all defensive linemen, and they just fucking pick a quarterback. I got you a quarterback. You don't need another one, let alone a normal dev. So, live and let learn. Year 5, I still need to be hands-on. I can't let the draft boards handle themselves, apparently. But, none of these teams really were anybody from the draft away from, completing the roster. Everyone's most likely going to be depth here. Maybe outside of that wide receiver we got for the Panthers, the speedster, ETN. So it's a little no harm, no foul, but we live and learn. Every year 5, I got to draft for these teams as well. Can't just hands off it. So it is now year 5. Let's show you all 4 of our teams here in the South. We're going to sim right to the end of the season. Hopefully we get a Super Bowl winner. We'll start here with the Carolina Panthers, who have maybe the best high-end players. Bryce Young, 96 X Factor. Samuel, 85 X Factor. We got Ekwonu, 90 superstar. Sermons is an X Factor. Mingo's developed nicely. We got DPJ, ETN, who I think really, again, out of all the rookies of that final rookie class, had the only shot to start and be an impact player. Defensively, Fitzpatrick, Reeder, and Brown. We got Brian Burns, Frankie Louvu's up to a superstar. Maybe not the most, again, limiting in terms of game changers on the defense. We still have some really, really strong players. Horn Dog, 92. So I feel definitely Super Bowl contenders. Next up, we'll take a look at the Saints, who are also fairly solid. I mean, getting a little bit of low on the tread the tire there of Alvin Kamara, but he's still solid. They landed Quentin Johnson in free agency. You have Chris Olave, who's probably been the best wide receiver in this rebuild across all of our teams. The O-line is solid. Peters is a superstar. Garner's a superstar. It's, the most exciting moment in the offseason, I think, so far has been us being able to get Tua here in New Orleans after dumping Derek Carr and all those guys. And he's been solid. I don't necessarily know if he's elevated the squad to a Super Bowl contender. Hopefully he can do that here in year 5. Defensively, for the Saints, couldn't come to a contract extension with Isaiah Foskey, which is really the only blunder we've made so far, I think, with them. McAllister, superstar. Brian Breeze. No dev traits for some of our guys. Got Marcus Williams running it back. For that, we can take Cunningham. We'll make him a strong safety just to diversify and kind of give us the best lineup possible that we can have. But Marcus Lattimore, crushing it. I do think he's one of the more underrated corners in the NFL, even though he is still in high regard. I don't think enough people give him credit. I think he's closer to a top 5 corner than he's not, and he's up to an X factor right now. So again, I think the Saints, maybe not a Super Bowl contender, but definitely a playoff contender that could go on a little bit of a Cinderella run. I will take a look at the Bucs, who drafted a quarterback for some reason. They're actually in a pretty good spot. Barrett, while not being a superstar or an X factor, has been a serviceable starting quarterback. Nick Chubb's been unreal. That was a great get for us. And even though there's no more Mike Evans, still have Chris Godwin, landed the top available wide receiver in free agency in Mims. Fant has been solid. Offensive line really consistent, led by 98 overall Tristan Wirfs. Defensively, still got Vita Vea and Kalijah Cansey doing their thing. No real weakness on the defensive side. 95 overall there for Antoine Winfield. 87 for Devin White. Shoyinka has been doing well in the sim. Again, probably in line with the Saints. I don't think I could say they're a Super Bowl contender, but definitely a playoff contender. And although I think across all these teams, there's a chance someone could surprise, I think our best shot, especially given their playbook, is going to be the Atlanta Falcons. Desmond Ridder up to a superstar. Bijan's been untouchable. He's been so freaking good. You got Drake London, Lake, Vincent, Vogel. A lot of depth there, but it is led by Kyle Pitts, who has actually, starting last year, performing well in the sim, going over 1,000 yards. The offensive line, solid. Lindstrom, 95. You add in 91 superstar tackle Ronnie Stanley in free agency. It is the best offense. Maybe not has as much star power as the Carolina Panthers, but pretty close. Defensively, front three is ugly, but again, when you sim in a 3-4, I almost feel like it doesn't matter. Like, no one's going to play well. You just need everyone else to be solid. So we have an X factor at linebacker here in generals. Brooks is solid. Safety room is decent, especially led by decent 97 X factor in Jesse Bates, AJ Terrell, Okuda, and Pope. 3 superstar corners. It is the best, I think, balance in terms of defense and offense that we have in the NFC South. I still hold them as my prediction of the one team that can get us a Super Bowl and save this rebuild and make it successful. Let's get into year 5. Hopefully, we get 4 playoff teams. Yikes! What? Well, the Falcons, the breadwinner, ends up making the playoffs. The Bucs at 9-8 sneak in. They did not. So it's all done to Atlanta. Weird, man. Like, everyone else kind of underperformed. I mean, Bryce Young was looking like he was making a turn to MVP. That's still really good. 31 touchdowns, 2 picks. Acceptable numbers. No 1,000 receivers. Double digit for Sermon. Defensively, I will say right now, I do think a big issue in this rebuild, it was the most voted on, but all these 3-4 teams, man, 3-4 teams suck in the sim. It just is what it is. You don't get good production out of them. Lattimore with 4 picks for the Saints. I mean, they didn't even sniff the playoffs. 7 sacks. Breezy was their best. Olave, awesome. He was absolutely awesome in this rebuild. Alvin Kamara, for where he's at, regressing and stuff like that. Tua never really elevated the Saints, needs to be said. I thought we got more of a big-time addition when we landed him in free agency. Wasn't the case. Bucks were better than expected, but again, just Nick Chubb's also at that age. Chris Godwin's at that age where they're not playing their best football. Devin White was pretty decent. 12 sacks from a nose tackle. Good sacks there from the Bucks. But our only playoff team, our last remaining hope, comes down to the Atlanta Falcons. Not much in terms of sacks. Chenowosha was a god. I guess did everything for the defense. Over 1,100 yards, 11 tutties for Drake London. Kyle Pitts, a little bit of a disappointing season. Bijan playing like an MVP candidate. 1,900 yards, 19 touchdowns. And Desmond Ridder, respectively. 3,700 yards, 31 touchdowns on the season. No one really crushed it. Bryce Young had a hell of a year. I think Bijan, Offensive Player of the Year. ETN wins Offensive Rookie of the Year for our squad. Bijan running back. I mean, it's going to come down ultimately to how far can Bijan Robinson carry the Atlanta Falcons, and can he carry them to a Super Bowl title? All right, I honestly feel like this is going to be like we're just standing there with our hands tied behind our back, like just shoot me and get it over with. We probably are just, this whole 5 years going to go down because we just can't beat the Cowboys because they're too good in Madden, and that's what happened. Yep. It's, I don't know. It is one of those things where it's just so lame making franchise content, knowing that it's going to be probably some you always are going to have to not just build a really good team, but you have to build a team that is so good that they can beat the Chiefs and or the Cowboys. I don't know if that's something that's ever going to be able to get patched, but the fact that it's just, man. Luckily, our first video we did this was in the NFC East, so we had an option of being Dallas all the time. They didn't even play better than us. Dak sucked. Got 3 tutties for Tony Pollard. Rushing touchdown from Dak. But again, it's just, you're not going to win them all. First rebuild we did of this, rebuilding the entire NFC East. We ended up eventually getting one sole Super Bowl winner, which was the Eagles. And again, if you got a Super Bowl every single time, would kind of diminish when things go your way. But again, I don't know. You guys see it. You guys watch franchise. You watch every franchise YouTuber. It's not just a C4 problem. The fucking Cowboys and Chiefs every year. It's when it goes your way and you beat them. It's almost like, holy shit, this is something special. We have captured something special here, fellas. But when you usually lose to them, it's just like, of course, like, can we get something different in franchise mode? And I've used all my extent of my pull to try and get them to patch these overpowered teams in franchise mode. And it's probably just fallen on deaf ears at this point. I've tried. I will say that is my one stance that I can put my stake in the ground for the franchise community in Madden 24. I've literally reached out to any and everybody that can have influence over this game and patches to fucking patch the couple of teams that are ridiculously good in Sim every year, regardless of the talent on the roster. Will it happen? Probably not. But I would like to at least end this video on a good note that I am trying. Anytime they reach out about anything, hey C4, how about this and Madden? What's going on this? I'll be like, oh, I'll answer your question. And also, can we make Dallas less good? Maybe have Kansas City lose every now and again. That'd be pretty cool in franchise mode. Will it ever happen? I don't know. But I think at the end of the day, here in our rebuild of the entirety of the NFC South, we made 4 really good teams, just not good enough to beat the Dallas Cowboys, headlined by our lovely Atlanta Falcons squad. And I think generally also, if I had to like put a little bit of ownership, I didn't draft the best. Didn't really land many X factors or anything crazy like that. Transformative players, generational talents. Had way more normal dev players and high picks than not. And that kind of, affected us a little bit. Didn't help also like last draft. The Bucs just double up on a quarterback for some reason. So yeah, that one, it kind of sucks. But I will say the one thing that, do you get sick and tired of losing the Cowboys? In a way, sure. But when I have a rebuild that ends like this, I actually am a little bit more motivated to go record another rebuild sooner than later, get the bad taste in my mouth. So let me know what division you guys want to see next. I'm still working hard away, myself and Bengal, on next-gen draft classes on Xbox. I will say right now, the number one thing I want to work on and record and create content for you guys are realistic rebuilds with those draft classes. But obviously, it takes a little bit of time to get those done. So I will say, for right now, maybe let me know what division you guys want to see next. I think it was leaning towards the AFC South on my Twitter. But that'll do it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. As always, your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. Smash the like button if you enjoyed. Until next time, it's your boy C4. Say peace out. Love ya. Have a good one.